So Moritz,
Hello.
hello. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. So look, both of us have just finished watching episode 5.
Uh-huh.
Blood calls blood. Vili,
Mhm.
unfortunately, is not able to join us today for this short little reaction video.
Brain
He'll
dump.
brain dump, but he will be with us on the next one when we go deep diving into it.
Mm.
But we just wanted to get this video out as fast as possible. Reaction, first thoughts, and
Mm.
yeah,
Raw
just
impressions.
raw impressions, emotions.
Mm.
I know I say this every episode, but every episode just gets better and better and better, and the trend is continuing. I think with this one. What do you think, Moritz? You also.
I think it's plateaued maybe a little bit. There were
Ooh.
aspects of this episode that I did not love. The more I'm sort of chewing on it, I think I see the reasons and the rationale behind some of the stuff I didn't like. It is obviously, like for many readers and lovers of the books, a lot to process and just,
Mm-hmm.
just absorb and, like file away in the appropriate places. But all in all, loved it. I mean, do you want to jump straight into like what was the highlight for you?
Okay, just hang on 1 second before we go any further.
Okay.
Spoiler alert! If you have
Oh, you
not
want to talk
watched,
spoilers?
well, I want to
Oh,
talk about episode 5. So if
for
you
the
have not
show.
watched
Yes.
episode 5, this is the wrong video. Go away, watch
this
episode
is
5, and
this
then
is
come
not
back.
episode 5.
This is not it. No. Yeah, so go watch episode 5 and then come back and join us in the comment section below. Okay, that's out of the way. Moritz, highlights you asked me.
Mm.
Wow, so many. Um, I don't know. I'm gonna have to go with our beefy boy. I'm gonna have to go with Perrin
Uh-huh.
and the wolves, definitely.
Yeah.
Like not
Interesting.
how it
Okay.
happens in the books, but I'm glad it happened. Like finally, I feel Perrin got out
Totally.
of that slump. Like I was
Mm.
very upset with the character of Perrin up until
Mm.
now. Like
Mm-hmm.
that time jump of like 1 month later, he's a different dude.
Mm.
He's processed it a lot. You could see he's
Yes.
smiling again. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, thank God,
Yeah.
he's here, he's back. And then the wolves and the whole white
I
cloak
was
scenario.
I
Yeah.
was surprised by the time jump, and I think it makes
Mm,
sense for,
yeah.
considering how, like, again, compressed the timeline is that the showrunners have to work with, like
Mm,
it makes sense for them to just, okay, they traveled a lot. Cool.
yeah.
Skip ahead.
Yeah.
I'm all for it because there's so much to get through. Like, we can't dilly-dally with,
I know in the books
apple
they
carts
stop.
and the like.
Yeah, apple carts. Mars super stoked there's no apple carts. But yeah, they jumped. Like I thought later on when they went to Breen Springs, I was like, I mean
Mm,
earlier on when they went to Breen
mm,
Springs, I was like, oh well, just skipping over Berlon, are we? Now we're skipping over
mm,
Camelin as well, just straight
mhm,
to Tarvalon. All right,
mhm.
fine, I get it for the show. And
Yes, yes.
Tarvalon, maybe that's my highlight. I don't know. I'm still processing. I literally finished the episode like 20 minutes ago. So
This is my highlight.
all right,
Tarvalon in general.
all right, yes,
Hey,
that
looks amazing. It's
amazing.
so cool. And all the shots of like the tower as like, the different people are heading up to it and they catch glimpses of it. And then like
Mm,
when Rand and Matt walk up onto that sort of headland, they go off the
mm,
path, they climb that hill and they look down on it and you see Dragon Mount in the background. That's actually a shot we saw from a trailer or a preview or something, and people were wondering who are the two
yes,
figures standing there because they do look dressed somewhat differently from what we've seen
yes.
in the other episodes and promo material. But that shot of Tarvalon, and then later also when they pan up from the gate and just look over the city, and you can see the people walking through the little alleyways and like how green it is. It's gorgeous and it looks
Mm,
amazing. That one establishing shot of like the sunrise coming up in the morning over the streets of Tarvalon and stuff. All of it worked really, really well.
yeah.
I'm very stoked with how it turned out.
Yeah, like
Loved
can
it.
I change my favorite moment? I want to go to Tarvalon as well. I mean, that's what left the biggest impression on me. Like I said, still
Mm,
processing the
mm,
interior shots as well of the buildings, the
mm.
statues, the scroll work on the floors, the attention
Yes.
to detail. I noticed it all, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because the show felt very small, like we talked about last time,
Mm,
just running around in the forest all the time.
mm.
Now it's like scope and scale. This is that
Yeah.
scale I was missing as well
Yes.
that I mentioned,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
we have it. Thank you.
And it's actually also cool how they use Tarvalon as this sort of central beacon and then show people coming in from like different, like their various little paths that they had traveled.
Mm,
There's like multiple entry points. It's not like everyone met at the gate of Tarvalon
yeah.
and walked in together or anything, like it is this huge sprawling city. And yeah, very, very, very stoked with it.
Let's get to the nitty gritty of it. let's get to
Let's.
point number one on every book reader's mind, the introduction of our good old friend, Loyal.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on character design and the portrayal of that character by the actor? Sorry, don't know your name.
I have so many thoughts about Loyal because there's so many aspects to consider
Totally.
here. Right off the bat, he's too small.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I get it. They're obviously intending on using him a lot in the story and are trying to avoid production overhead by trying to make him look gigantic. I mean, in the books, he's bigger than a Trolloc.
Yes.
Right, and yeah, we've already seen how huge the Trollocs are. So Loyal would be impossible to like show him on that big horse that you read in the book, right? Like, I mean, if they're traveling together on horseback, it would be impossible to film that. It would all have to become CGI, and sooner or later, you would notice discrepancies between, practical effects and CGI. It wouldn't fit. So I understand why they made him
Yeah.
smaller. The blonde hair was a surprise.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not anti it. It was just
Yeah.
surprising. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. His facial features and stuff I thought was cool, and like the enlarged teeth and everything.
Yeah.
Generally, the facial prosthetics and stuff I thought was fine. I actually I should be chastising myself. Didn't take notice of his eyebrows. I didn't notice if they were tufted or not, like in the books.
Yeah.
I didn't look specifically, but maybe it's
too
just
soon.
it's a testament to like how captivating it was. I like the timbre of his voice and the sort of like the Foley work of him walking around. Like he sounds heavy. He looks very like barrel chested. So what they lacked in actual stature and height, they made up for just in heft. He's almost like he's like a giant dwarf. Like the proportions are almost dwarf-like. He's even got a beard and everything, even though we know he is effectively a teenager.
Yeah.
The portrayal, I think, is okay. I think the writing and some of the lines that they gave him were bad.
Right. Yeah.
He is really leaning into these humans, blah, blah, to the point where he's like talking to himself, and
like everyone's like left.
Exposition. Yes,
there's no one there else.
Exposition machine. Yeah,
yeah. Like, so, look, that's what I found exactly. I wanted to touch on that point as well. That's what I didn't like. Is like he's making a point. All the words are about how hasty humans are, and then he's just got like 2 minutes to say like 40 lines, and it's his whole the delivery was like just cramming as much as possible into that tiny little moment, which I thought was rushed, but ironically, like in juxtaposition with what Ogier are.
Also, I found Nynaeve. Here she is.
Oh yeah. I was like, actually, that felt quick, but I'm glad it's over with. Like, I'm glad that there's we got a little bit of a reunion after all these slow episodes. Like, all right, at least one of like two of these groups have gotten back together. Oh, the name drop as Rand walks into to Tar Valon, he looks around and he goes, "Blood and ashes." I was like, thank you. Hashtag us.
Thanks for the shout out, Rand. That was awesome. I loved, it was maybe a little bit on the nose or like, forced, but I loved as Matt and Rand walk into that inn, you hear that whistling and then the camera focuses and in the background, there's Paden Fane standing in a doorway watching them walk into the inn.
I didn't see that.
Aha!
All right. Because
the whistling stood out to me, and I'll be honest, I did not actually see him, so maybe I'm being a bit harsh saying it's too on the nose, but like the whistling stood out to me a lot. I was like, what is that whistling? They're not whistling, Matt and Rand. So I skipped back and I looked around, and the focus changes ever so subtly to Paden Fane standing in a doorway watching them, whistling to himself.
Missed that entirely. All right,
check it out.
I will watch this series again tonight with my wife, and then again and again and again.
Yeah.
So I missed that part. Yeah, we have Matt and Rand. Matt's in a bad way, pretty much spot on as long as the books are going, and also it's been a month. I like Logain being brought in. That is a scene from Camelin in the books where he looks up and he sees them and he starts laughing. Like you thought you had problems with me. Watch out for those two.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
I'm also glad they kept that.
Yeah.
A couple lines in this episode were used in the promo material, but in a completely different context. Matt here, when he says to Rand, "Let's make a deal," they played when Matt picked up the dagger in the original teaser. Moiraine's statement of "Do not underestimate the woman in this tower" or "woman of this tower." Now we find out a line to Nynaeve, more talking about the negative aspects and the politicking and all that sort of stuff. where in the trailer it's made to like be like, don't underestimate us, and they show her channeling the power
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
thing.
I noticed that as
Um,
well.
yeah,
I thought
just
I thought Leandrin was a bit weird. There was a scene there where she's talking to Nynaeve, and she's like, then you go through that gate, and there's a garden. And I'm like, what are you up to,
I
you weirdo?
it's just very weird, but I read that as being purposeful, like her
Yes.
being fake, and
Yeah.
that's how it reads as well. The scene with Leandrin that really took me aback was that, am I barking up the wrong tree here? But does she look like she's sort of coming onto Moraine?
I read that like somebody mentioned it on Twitter or something, that they previously had a relationship. Like when they were
Really?
novices together, they were pillow friends, as Robert Jordan would have said. And so they have a history
Leandrin and
together.
Moraine?
Yes, but that's like
Canonically?
no, like
Uh,
no, fans talking about it and speculating it. So I'm
okay.
wondering if
Okay.
that
Yes.
stuck out in my mind when she was like stroking her chin and like touching her,
Mm.
stuff like that. I was like, maybe they do
Hmm.
have a history together, because it seems that maybe they're changing the history between Swan and Moraine, because they don't seem to be. Although we'll have to wait and see. We never know. All right. Let's go back to the White Cloaks and
Okay.
Perrin.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Hectic torture scene. So I suppose trying to bring, like, they have to have that impetus, that moment that brings out his wolf connection, which
Hmm.
we clearly see, and I
Hmm.
loved.
Yes. Yes. I mean, when his eyes go yellow, you're like, there it is, and you hear the wolves like howling in the
Yeah,
background from time to time. It's like,
they're getting
and
louder
before,
and louder, getting closer and closer, and I was just thinking, "Become brother," when he's
when
being
those
tortured.
shots of Egwene and in the white dress tied to a chair,
Yes.
we know from the trailer that Aram was, even from the trailer before the show started, that Aram was with them when the White Cloaks are circling Perrin and
Mm-hmm.
Egwene. So we knew that that was sort of coming soon. And
Yes.
then there was shots that were leaked before the episode came out of, like, the Tinker standing arm in arm, and the White
Mm.
Cloaks in this episode just brutalizing them. That was heavy.
Yeah.
Um, but I
Well,
knew
they are
that this
questioners. They're not your run
true.
of the mill.
So I knew that the scene was going to be coming. I'm glad that they also didn't linger, like Perrin and Egwene didn't stay with the White Cloaks for too long. They were captured, they were sort
Mm.
of tortured, and blah blah blah, and then got out again. But I suspected that it would be the wolves that got them out, and not like in the books, Lan and Moraine and Nynaeve.
Yeah, because they kind
And
of like
it fits now.
melded the two options, like when they get
Mm,
saved by them, and also when Perrin kills some of the White Cloaks, uh,
yes.
and the wolves attack and rip out one of the
Hmm.
throats, and then yeah, so that happened. I think they just like mushed it all together, and good, because
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
time at all. But I
I've one.
enjoyed that scene. I like the way his eyes look. I
Mhm.
like the wolves. I'm still like, I know you've said this as well, but like the wolves look tiny, but that's
They
just how
look
big
small.
wolves are.
Yes.
Very few wolves are very big. It's most wolves are about that size.
Dire wolves that a lot of people
Yeah.
would be comparing them to are made up. They're
Yes.
not real.
Well, I went to a wolf park last year and I saw all kinds
Yeah.
of wolves, European wolves and
Mm,
Iberian wolves. And it's only the Siberian wolf, the white one, that's really large that you look at and go,
mm.
whoa. But all the other wolves are like dog
Yeah.
size. So
Yeah.
it's just in my head that I imagine them that
Yeah.
big.
I found Eamon Valder's torture to be a little bit uninspiring. Like, there are better ways to torture people, like just cutting him on the back.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, the point was made. Volder in his sort of like sleeveless uniform also looks, and it's just another level of menace, added onto it. I
when
thought it was
I
effective.
when I was putting on Amazon Prime to go and watch this episode, there's another screenshot there of 22 Jump Street. I don't know if you've
Mm-hmm.
seen those movies. The second one is called 20, and Channing Tatum is wearing a shirt on that says "Suns out, guns out." I immediately saw that. I thought, his guns are out. That's a thing that Amazon's leaning into. Yeah, yeah. Eamon Velda is a bad man, and
Yes.
he does get stabbed. I do like that.
Mm.
Egwene channels a bit.
Just a little. She just missed the carotid artery. She should have just aimed a little bit closer to the throat, and instead she just got him in the shoulder. So he's
Ah,
probably not gone.
no. He's just pissed off now, which would
And
lead into the story.
honestly, he's a talent that they shouldn't write out of the show
Oh,
just yet, because he
of course
is
not.
one of the few like solid presences. Like, yeah.
Matt
conveys a lot just by being there. Him,
Matt's
Lorraine.
performance now, like you've spoken about this before, like how
Yeah.
good the actor is. Like it really, I noticed it again now in this episode.
Yeah.
He's doing really, really well.
Yeah.
And that's that scene between Nynaeve telling Rand about how Egwene had breakbone fever when she was a kid.
Yes.
Like, and he afterwards goes, that sounds about right. Like,
Yeah.
she is unbreakable. Like,
Yeah.
oh, foreshadowing. Shh, Moritz, no
Yes.
spoilers.
Yeah, very, very cool.
All of that.
And then, okay, one
Let's do
last
it.
thing that I want to ask you about. Okay,
Sure.
what did you make of this focus? And I mean, we talk often about like how little screen time they have and how hard it is for them to fit like everything from the books in there. But then they've added in this whole dynamic of Steppen, processing the grief of losing an Aes Sedai and all that sort of stuff. They've spent a lot of time in this episode focusing on that. In scenes between Lan and Steppen, Steppen and Nynaeve. Even I thought Steppen's little plan was good. He goes to Nynaeve for the sleep agent, but he doesn't use it himself. He drugs Lan instead, so they can get some time by himself. I think that was maybe a bit convoluted, but it shows a bit of forethought and planning, which is cool. But even in like the scenes with Lan and Moraine, where they're talking about Steppen and stuff, they're really, really trying very hard to make us understand the water bond and just what it means and everything.
I hope it's done now. I hope the time that they're spending on building up this in our brains, this is important, because obviously if they're putting this much effort into it later on, it's going to be a thing.
Well, I have a theory on that, but that also creeps into spoiler territory, so you and I will talk.
Okay, but yeah, like Moraine mentions it. Never mind. There's so many spoilers.
Say no more. But you're right. I mean, like to the point where they've added in this whole ceremony at the end, like where everyone's there and like the Aes Sedai are there and the waters are there together, and they seem to be, using Lan as sort of like a focus for all of their emotion, and Lan grieves on behalf of all of them. Like, is it Hamar that's standing there? I don't know if he was named. I should check in the credits.
Yeah,
the
maybe.
Sort of guy guiding that ceremony could be Hamar. But Lan shows all the emotion in that scene, which is jarring. And I mean, it's the thing that from the trailer, a lot of book readers were like, what the fuck are they doing here? Why is Lan showing any emotion at all, let alone like freaking out?
Yeah.
But okay, cool. They've come up with a narrative reason for that. That's the part of the show. And unfortunately, they spent quite a lot of time on it that didn't really appeal to me. Like, it could just be because I'm a reader and I understand the water bond and I don't need this. So I'd be interested to hear what newcomers to the series would think about that specific
I had a
scene.
very emotional reaction to that. I literally shed tears, like literally.
Wow.
And it worked for me. But like I said, like that build up, they put in the work to get to that emotional point at the end where Lan is having. I thought like maybe he went a little too far, like 2 screams would have been enough. But my tears are dried up by the 3rd scream. So like I said, I hope it's done now. Like I get it. Yes. Everyone gets it. There's a bond. It's super, super strong.
They did a very good job of making Steppen likable.
Yeah.
And
I'm sad he's gone.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. But I suspected it when Lan woke up and looked at that cup. I went, oh dear, he drugged him and he killed himself, like immediately.
He looks up now in hindsight probably to where that one dagger is missing, but I thought Steppen had maybe like hung himself or something.
That's what I thought. He looks up
in shock. I was like, Steppen's hanging from the rafters.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say from our first episode, from our first discussion, I do now very much think that Moraine was getting ready in the White Tower in that first scene of the first episode, like when all the trappings look the same.
Yeah.
So that scene must be 2 years before the events in the rest of episode 1, which is not immediately obvious because Moraine seems to be wearing the same garb, all that sort of stuff. But they talk here in this episode about it being 2 years since she's been in the tower.
Yes. Well, in the books, it's been 20 years. Like she hasn't been back to the tower in decades. But here it's only 2 years. Fine. Long time. She hasn't been there. I do like how Rand got some development because he's just been along for the ride so long, so far. And Loyal, that whole exposition, like all those lines that Loyal was delivering were from the books, almost all of them. And hey, an Aielman, I'm happy to meet an Aielman. He's like, I'm not Aiel. Like,
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad that's
I'm not
in there.
Aiel. I'm from the Two Rivers. Ah, an Aielman from the Two Rivers. No, I'm not an Aiel. Oh, an Aielman from the Two Rivers that says he's not an Aiel. Like just not letting it go. Okay, guys, viewers, Rand is Aiel. Loyal thinks he's Aiel. Trust
Yeah,
him.
very much so. Like in this reality, it's impossible to have red hair and not be an Aiel. Like
Yeah.
doesn't exist. So okay, yeah, we get it. All right, that too. I like how they met in the library. Like that's how he meets him. Like sweet. I wonder if that's Basil Gill's place, if that's the Queen's blessing.
They don't go that far, but they do say Tom told me about this place, and you know that
Exactly.
Tom is a big fan of the
And we know
Queen's
Basil
blessing.
Gill's been cast. So I was hoping to
true.
see him. It would have been great if they had that little scene where he met Basil as they came in and then went up to the room. But it's like, oh, there's this place, and then they're in the room. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
missed out on Basil.
Or walk into the library and Loyal and Basil are busy playing stones or something.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
Something. Anyway, little missed opportunities, but all in all, I thought that episode was very good. I enjoyed it. I look forward to watching it again tonight with my wife. So,
Nice.
And then again and again before we do our deep dive. At least 4 times, I think, is necessary because the detail, like this episode, the scale is much bigger. There's so much detail. We're really going to have to make some substantial notes for a deep dive.
Go look for Paid and Fane.
I definitely, that's right now. Pause. But anything else you wanted to touch on? We don't want to ramble in this video. We have other videos for that.
Yes. No, I'm fine. I generally love the episode. Love Tarvalon. Love the emergence of some of the stuff that we've been waiting for, like the wolves and that sort of stuff. So yeah, big fan.
Right.
Big fan.
Cool. Would you venture an out of 10 score for this episode?
If the previous episode was an 8.5, I'd put this one at an 8.
I would go maybe if it was an 8.5, because we haven't done this before. So let's just say the base is last episode was 8.5. I'd probably much be on 8.5 as well.
Okay.
I like this one just as much as the other one, and I'm looking forward probably more, because last night I was thinking about it while cooking dinner, going, my thoughts were worry about what's going to happen. I've been watching the divergence, like from the source material, getting bigger and bigger and bigger as we go along, and I was really worried about where the show's going and what major changes are they going to do. A bait and switch on us? It's happened before.
Yeah.
But now, like, we've kind of come back together. Now that everybody's back together in Tarvalon, the stories kind of come back together. I'm like, oh, now I'm actually looking forward to the future episodes. So
yeah. I think episode 1 also, they stumbled in various areas, not necessarily in like, you know, the plot points covered or anything, but some of the performances and some of, you know, like there were just bits and pieces. It really stumbled in the beginning, and I've had this fear, like you were saying, like, okay, so the show got progressively better. Episode 2 was better because it had cool stuff like Shadow Lagoth in it. Episode 3, okay, cool. Now they've really veered. Newtown, Dark Friend, Tom Maryland, you know, that was all really cool. Then episode 4 blew us all out of the water. You know, we were like, oh, great. And I was worried. I was like, how long are they going to be able to keep this up? Is it going to keep increasing, or can it at least, you know, stay at that episode 4 level? And I think for the most part it has. I'm less worried now. If they can get a couple of episodes like that in a row, then, you know, we're off to the races.
Well, we have 3 more left for this season.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's 3 hours of Wheel of Time TV. That's all. And who knows how long the finale is going to be. They may make it a little bit longer than an hour, you know.
They might. Just on that quickly, they've put the name of that episode out now. It is The Eye of the World, and without giving away any spoilers or anything, I was surprised by that, considering that, you know, all the talk has been about, you know, the first season covering topics well into book 2. Which I don't see any evidence of yet. And with 3 episodes to go, the final episode entitled The Eye of the World, we might be basically focused on book 1 in season 1.
I think they just they're talking about bringing some characters or some storylines or some plot lines in just to make the season 1 a little, you know, make more sense. And even then, it's not making that much sense. It's making more sense as we go along. But yeah, we'll see. There's still another, like a lot. We're really only just over halfway. So
that's true.
Lots to see. All right, Moritz. Shot. Off you go to watch it again. I'm sure you will.
Yes, I will.
I'll edit this video quick and throw it up online, and we'd love to hear what everybody thought about the show, about this episode. Let us know in the comments section below. like, subscribe, all of those things, and then so that you'll be notified as well, and ring that notification bell so that you can be notified for our deep dive discussion, because I think this is going to be a good one.
Oh, yes. Oh,
I have
yes.
thoughts. So we'll
All
see you
right.
in the next video. All right, Moritz,
Nice
thank
one.
you.
Thank
Cheers.
you. See you then.